You just bought back the largest company on earth. Not built, bought back. You built it once, lost it, and rather than walk away, you constructed a second company for the sole purpose of buying the first one again. And it worked. You are William Crapo Durant, and you own General Motors twice over. Every banker in New York is telling you the same thing. Stop. Lock it in. You have won. You will not stop. And that decision is going to kill the fortune on this table. This is an autopsy. The body is one of the great American fortunes of the 20th century, nearly $1 billion at its peak. The man who owned it founded General Motors, the largest industrial company the world had ever seen. He co-founded Chevrolet. He invented the way car makers still organize themselves today. And he died in a rented New York apartment, surviving on charity from the very men who took his company, sweeping the floor of a bowling alley in Flint, still certain the next fortune was just ahead. The cause of death was not the crash of 1929. It was not bad luck. Billy Durant was killed by the single instinct that made him rich. We are going to find it. And then we are going to find it in you. To understand the size of what was lost, you have to see the man at altitude. In 1920, General Motors was 8 times larger than it had been 4 years earlier. Durant didn't just run it, he was it. On Wall Street they called him the Bull of the Bulls, the man who could move a stock with a phone call. J.P. Morgan's people had a colder name for him, an unstable visionary. Both were correct. Durant saw the future the way other men see the present. While he was still building horse-drawn carriages, he was describing a country laced with paved highways, filled with affordable cars, served by roadside restaurants, fast food before the phrase existed. He was almost never wrong about what was coming. He was almost always wrong about when to stop. That is the strange shape of this story. Durant was not a fraud like the men this channel usually examines. He didn't cook the books. He didn't run a Ponzi scheme. He was a genuine visionary who built real value out of nothing, twice, which makes his ruin more unsettling, not less. Because if vision and brilliance and being right about the future can't save you from this trap, what can? Begin with the first body of evidence, how the disease looked when it was still winning. It's the 1880s. You are a high school dropout in Flint, Michigan, grandson of a lumber baron working odd jobs, lumberyard hand, cigar salesman. One night you ride in a 2-wheeled horse cart with a suspension so smooth it feels like floating. You don't invent it. You do something more useful. You buy the rights, and you sell it harder than anyone alive. Within a few years, your carriage company is the largest in the nation, 50,000 vehicles a year. You are rich. Most men would stop here. You don't. You see something coming that most carriage makers are laughing at, the automobile. In 1904, you take over a failing little outfit called Buick. By 1908, you've made it the best-selling car company in America. And then you do the thing that defines you. You don't bank the win. You roll it into something enormous, a holding company built to swallow dozens of car makers, suppliers, and brands under one roof. You call it General Motors. It's a structurally brilliant idea. Car makers still use it today, and it runs on the same engine that will destroy you, the refusal to ever, under any circumstances, take your chips off the table.
Here is the first death. General Motors grows by buying, and Durant buys constantly, often with borrowed money, often companies that turn out to be worthless. By 1910, GM is overextended and cash-starved. The bankers who hold the debt do what bankers do. They hand Durant a lifeline with a noose attached. We will save your company, but you are out. For the first time, the man who built General Motors no longer controls General Motors. Pause here, because this is the moment a different man's story ends. He's still young. He's still respected. He could take a board seat, collect his wealth,
and become one more comfortable Detroit millionaire. Now ask yourself the question honestly. You've built the largest car company in the country. You've just been humiliated and pushed out. You have more money than your grandchildren could spend. Do you rest? Durant's answer is the diagnosis. He doesn't see a fortune to protect. He sees a table he's been pulled away from, and he is already working out how to get back to it. What he does next is, genuinely, one of the most audacious maneuvers in the history of American business. He finds a famous race car driver named Louis Chevrolet, puts that magnetic name on a new car company, and pours everything into it. Chevrolet sells. And as the money comes in, Durant does something quietly ruthless. He uses Chevrolet's success to buy up shares of General Motors, the company that threw him out. Share by share, in secret, through holding companies, he accumulates GM stock. And by 1916, in a boardroom that did not see it coming, William Durant walks back in and announces he controls the company again. He had been executed. He had climbed back onto the table and bought the casino. It's breathtaking. It's also, if you're watching closely, terrifying. Because a man who learned the lesson of 1910 protects himself this time. He diversifies. He sets aside untouchable wealth. He builds a floor under his life. Durant builds no floor. He treats his second life exactly like his first, as fuel for the next bigger bet. The genius and the disease are the same muscle, and he cannot tell them apart. And neither, yet, can the world. Because right now, he is winning enormously. From 1916 to 1920, Durant runs General Motors at full throttle, and the company explodes, 8 times larger in 4 years. He backs a refrigerator maker that becomes Frigidaire. He brings in the managers who will define modern corporate America. His personal fortune swells toward $1 billion, an almost unimaginable sum for the era. This is the peak. This is the exact moment the autopsy keeps returning to, because at this altitude, the math is simple. He has won the game so completely that no further bet can meaningfully improve his life, while a single bad one can erase it. Every rational advisor in his orbit is saying the same word: enough. There's a skill here that almost no one who gets rich ever learns, and it's the hardest skill in all of money. Not how to make it, how to know you're done. How to look at a fortune that has already outrun every need you'll ever have and put down the dice. Durant has never once in his entire life put down the dice. And the dice are about to be loaded against him. In 1920, the post-war economy cracks. GM stock starts to fall. A careful owner watches it fall, protected by the wealth he set aside. Durant set nothing aside. Worse, he'd been buying GM stock personally, on credit, to prop the price up, because he couldn't stand to watch his company sink. As the stock drops, his lenders call. He owes millions he cannot pay. He is, secretly, on the edge of dragging the entire company down with his personal debts. The DuPont family and the bankers step in, cover his obligations, and present the bill. Total surrender. Durant resigns from General Motors. For the second time, he has lost the company he built, and this time, he has lost most of his fortune doing it. Notice the pattern, because it's the whole case. Twice, he was handed the largest car company on the planet. Twice, he refused to secure a single dollar of safety. Twice, the same trap closed on the same man in the same way. He is 59, out of GM forever, and the only lesson he seems to take is that he needs a new company, immediately. Within months, he founds Durant Motors and starts the climb a third time. But something has shifted.
Building companies is slow, and Durant has discovered a faster table: the stock market itself. Through the boom of the 1920s, he becomes one of the most famous speculators in America, the bull of the bulls, moving in and out of stocks on a scale that made newspapers gasp. For a man addicted to the bet, Wall Street in the late 1920s was the largest, brightest, most generous casino ever built. And like every casino, it existed to take everything back. This is the part of the autopsy where you can almost see it coming and want to shout at the screen. He's in his 60s. He's been destroyed by overreach twice, and he is now feeding what remains of one of the great fortunes of the age into the most speculative market in history, at the most speculative moment in its history. He is not investing, he is at the table, and he cannot leave. October 1929. The market does not fall, it detonates, and Durant, leveraged, exposed, all in as always, is standing directly underneath it. The fortune that once approached $1 billion is gone. Durant Motors is liquidated. In 1936, the founder of General Motors files for personal bankruptcy. His assets by the end amount to the clothes he owns and a few $100s. What follows is almost unbearable to watch, precisely because the man himself seems not to notice the tragedy. Reporters, tipped off, find him in New Jersey washing dishes at a lunch counter attached to a supermarket he owns because he's decided groceries are the next big thing. He poses cheerfully with a broom. Then it's a bowling alley in Flint, the city he made famous, where he dreams aloud of a national chain of family bowling palaces. He is 78, sketching his next empire on a napkin. In his final years, the man who built the largest company on earth survives on quiet checks from Walter Chrysler and Alfred Sloan, the competitors and successors who never forgot what he had been. A stroke takes most of what's left in 1942. He dies in a small New York apartment in 1947. So, cause of death. It's tempting to write down the crash, or bad luck, or old age. That would be a misdiagnosis. The crash was the weapon. It wasn't the killer. Billy Durant was killed by the exact instinct that made him great. The drive that let a high school dropout from Flint build General Motors out of carriages. The refusal to stop. The certainty there was always a bigger move. Never had an off switch. In a builder, we call that vision. In a gambler, we call it a disease. They are the same trait. Durant simply never developed the one thing that separates the two: the ability to recognize that he had already won, and to step back from the table while he was still standing. And this isn't an old story about an old man. Behavioral economists have a name for the modern version. When people play with winnings, what they call house money, they take wilder and wilder risks, as if the gains aren't quite real. The win itself makes them reckless. Durant spent 40 years playing with house money. To him, it was never house money. It was always just the next deal. Vision told him the future was bigger. It was right. It just never once told him he was already rich enough to stop. Now the uncomfortable part. The reason this is an autopsy and not just a story. You have a smaller version of Durant's instinct, and you felt it. It's the winning trade you refuse to close because surely it goes higher. It's the bonus you immediately leverage into something riskier because it doesn't feel like real money. It's the quiet voice that says, you'll rest after the next one, and the next one. Durant is what that voice looks like when it wins every argument for 40 years. He isn't a warning about being reckless. He's a warning about being right.
about what happens when you get so good at the climb that you forget climbing was supposed to take you somewhere. The hardest number in finance isn't a return or a ratio. It's the one where you write down what enough means before the table writes it for you. If this rewired how you think about your own wins, subscribe. Every video here is the autopsy of one fortune and the trap that killed it. Tell me below, what's the win you couldn't walk away from? And if you want the trap that destroyed the smartest fund in history, the LTCM autopsy is on screen now. The body's closed. The file stays open because the trap is still out there. It's in you.